Speaker, I rise to speak in strong support of the Residential Tenancies Amendment Domestic Violence Reform Bill 2025. This bill advances the fundamental principle that every person deserves a home that is safe and secure. It removes barriers that have left too many victim survivors trapped, delays their escape from danger and prevents timely access to stable housing and support. Speaker, I'm proud to be part of a government that has taken action and is delivering for those survivors of domestic and family violence. Far too frequently, homes can be places of harm, and as we know, leaving an abusive relationship is the most dangerous time for a victim survivor. When individuals and families are subjected to domestic violence and abuse, every moment can be a matter of life or death. Current law allows a tenant experiencing domestic violence to end a tenancy by serving a domestic violence termination notice supported by one of 4 forms of evidence: a certificate of conviction for a domestic violence offence, a domestic violence order, a family law injunction, or a declaration from a competent person. Of these, a declaration from a competent person is the only option that does not require interaction with police or courts, making it vital for people who are fearful or unable to engage with formal justice processes. Yet too many victim survivors face practical obstacles in obtaining these declarations, leaving some exposed to ongoing violence and harm. In the 2 years to March 2025, domestic violence assaults recorded by New South Wales Police across New South Wales increased by 3.6%, which likely represents only 40% of actual incidents due to underreporting. We know that many victim survivors are fearful or unwilling to contact police or engage with the justice system. Speaker, the original inclusion of competent person declarations recognised the reality that health professionals, counsellors, domestic violence services and refugee workers frequently encounter victim survivors both before and after they leave violence, and are often best placed to assess immediate risk and provide credible support for a tenant seeking to terminate a lease quickly and safely. However, ambiguity about who qualifies as a competent person, restrictive membership definitions for social workers, and overly broad references to government child welfare agencies have created unnecessary uncertainty and inconsistent access across communities. These gaps have disproportionately affected vulnerable groups, including people with disability, First Nations peoples, migrants, refugees, people with limited English, and those in rural and remote areas. The bill clarifies and expands the definition of competent persons to align the law with contemporary service models and workforce realities. It recognises government workers in domestic violence, sexual assault, refuge and emergency accommodation services as competent persons alongside practitioners in funded non-government organisations. The bill replaces references to social workers being registered with a professional association with a test of membership or eligibility for membership, which reflects how social work accreditation operates in practice and broadens access without compromising professional standards. The bill also narrows the scope of child welfare roles to government employees who directly engage with children and families in matters of welfare, abuse or neglect, to ensure declarations are made by those with relevant frontline experience. So often, time is of the essence when a person wants to flee violence and abuse. We must ensure the rental laws in New South Wales work for victim survivors from all backgrounds and locations, and particularly the most vulnerable communities. The bill introduces the concept of a prescribed employee and empowers regulations to specify training, experience and accreditation requirements to ensure declarations are made by individuals with appropriate domestic violence expertise. Currently, the Act broadly refers to government agencies providing child welfare services. However, this could inadvertently capture other workers, such as those in administration or indeed finance. The bill balances greater access with the need for thoughtful safeguards to protect tenants, respondents and the integrity of the process. Consistent standards will reduce uncertainty for landlords and tenants, increase confidence in competent person declarations and reduce opportunities for misuse. In line with the review of the domestic violence provisions in the Residential Tenancies Act, the government will consult further with stakeholders to shape regulations that expand access to competent persons for vulnerable cohorts. Specific measures will target renters with disability, First Nations people, culturally and linguistically diverse communities, and people in rural and remote locations to ensure equitable and timely access to support. These regulatory changes will be designed with sector experts and community representatives to ensure they're practical, culturally safe and trauma-informed. These reforms have a single urgent purpose: to empower victim survivors to leave unsafe homes quickly and safely by clarifying who can provide competent person declarations, recognising frontline government workers and embedding training and regulatory safeguards. This bill removes needless barriers and strengthens protections for those at greatest risk. I commend this bill to the House.